This week, the Tesla Supercharger team opened their first V4 station. CPO 060 expanded their GM-backed station build via a charge point arrangement into a Culver's in Wisconsin. And the New York Times authored a surprisingly positive story about EV road trips. Let's get into it. I'm here at the newly opened Iona Rechargery in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. Iona opened 2 new rechargeries, and it sure is a pretty backdrop in which to shoot. And fair warning, today's episode is going to be a bit longer. There's just way too much going on, and otherwise it would have been skipping a bunch of stories. So really, I consider myself to be the victim here. I'm just trying to cover this stuff, and all the CPOs out there are causing bedlam and pushing into a crazy amount of activity territory. So apologize in advance if this one stretches a little bit longer. To start off, quick clarification on last week's episode. Decided not to kind of participate in the comments. So what I'll do is, there's questions from the week previous. I'll try to address them in the next week's episode concerning the MLO or main lug only reference. And let me just kind of clarify. What I was trying to do there is explain the benefit of BESS to charging stations like this. And I was trying to briefly go over transformers and whatnot, but main lug only, like if you have a sub panel in your house off your main panel, the main lug only panel is the one that doesn't have a main breaker in order to kick. So it's a sub panel. And an electrical delivery like this is very rare, but there was one station that Brandon Flash came across, I think it was in Virginia, where there was only a MLO panel. And it was speculated somewhere either in a substation, there was utility grade main panel that was being fed, and the local utility was delivering power via some kind of, approach where it was antiquated design and they were trying to avoid having to put in a transformer or something. But anyway, MLO utility delivery to customers like this is very rare, and I'm not really sure to what extent. I would have to assume that is a very small percentage. But anyway, that's what MLO service delivery is. Main lug only. It's basically a panel that doesn't have a main breaker is the concept of MLO. And also there was some mention about the 14.4 voltage in the power lines. And I am aware that in both transmission and distribution systems, the voltage that goes through the wires varies. And 14.4 is, somewhat common throughout the United States. I understand in Canada, what is it? It's 12,470 volts, most common, at least from my understanding. So anyway, a couple of clarifications that the whole concept of electrical delivery through the national grid and utility technology for electrical delivery is a very complex subject. And if you want to learn more, basically everything I learned was Brandon Flash's channel. Recommend going over and subscribing. He's industry insider and he shares his knowledge freely. It's a really great channel in which to glean information concerning the electrical delivery of power to stations like this. And basically everything I've learned from him. I've basically compiled a whole bunch of notes by watching his videos. It's a terrific resource, a very great channel, and if you want to learn more about that whole concept of electrical delivery. As mentioned at the start, Tesla cut the ribbon on their first ever V4 station in Redwood City, California. There's a deep dive video on this channel a few days ago with Brandon. So I mentioned everyone go check that video out. He goes over many things about the new station, and it is for sure worth a listen if you want to know more about the new version 4 Tesla Supercharger stations that are now starting to roll out. Additionally, the Tesla Charging X account created a post where they were referencing their Q3 numbers. And let me just go over some of these really quick. 4,000 supercharger stalls opened, and these are global numbers, not just North America, which is an 18% year-over-year growth. But I have been seeing here in North America, they've really been on a tear, so I would have to guess that a vast majority of those went into North America. 1.8 terawatt hours delivered, which is a 29% year-on-year growth. And they go over some additional numbers about sessions and Tesla burgers. I don't know how that's relevant, but anyway. And the trend is really what I would like to point out, that of the companies that are having to post numbers publicly, and Tesla charging does not have to post their numbers publicly. They're doing so just out of way of circulating the success that they're seeing. And I don't think there's any way of validating these numbers, but there's no reason to not believe them. The trend for energy dispensing at electric vehicle charging stations continues to increase by all measures. There really isn't any indication that this is starting to ebb and starting to decrease. Nothing along those lines. It's continuing year-over-year growth. More and more stations are coming online, and this adoption of electric vehicles is being able to be measured to some extent by the amount of energy being delivered from stations like this. And Tesla's post just speaks to that as well. In Pennsylvania, there's been another Apple Green Service Plaza getting Alpitronic HYC 400s. This time it's at the Blue Mountain Service Plaza off the Pennsylvania Turnpike in the middle of the state, in a real picturesque area. I looked it up on PlugShare, and then I went into the satellite view and went down to street view and everything. Really beautiful backdrop. A viewer, Tim, from Sewickley, I think it's how it's pronounced, Pennsylvania, sent me these photos and videos. Let's take a quick look. Thanks, Tim, for sending those along. That looks to be a very nice stop to recharge in. In the state of Wisconsin, CPO 060, in partnership with General Motors Energy, opened a station in Rhinelander at a Culver's restaurant, famous for their butterburgers and custard desserts. Really nice place. YouTuber Wisconsev, I believe is how it's pronounced, was there for the official ribbon cutting ceremony. Let's go to him to discuss the event. I'm here with Jay Williams, who runs the Wisconsev.
Yeah.
You
won't find it in a dictionary.
YouTube channel, and we'll go over the backstory there. But it's a pleasure to virtually meet you, sir. I've been watching your content rather religiously. It's terrific quality content that you put out on your channel. Much appreciated. And if we can, let's go ahead and explain to the viewers where the channel name came from.
So my wife last fall, so in Wisconsin, every EV or hybrid has to have the little orange sticker on their license plate. So if you look at my logo, that's a Wisconsin plate-ish with the EV sticker on it. So the backstory is that I created Wisconsev when I had to put the sticker on my wife's new license plate. In Wisconsin, they have support the crane population license plates. And there's only one spot that the EV sticker is supposed to go, the top corner. That's the only place on the license plate that has the birds actually flying. So I knew that she would not allow me to sully that with a big orange sticker. So I just slapped it over the IN in Wisconsin, kind of, and that I told my kids and my wife that we now live in Wisconsin. And that's
it's a quiet form of civil protest, I guess, right?
Just a little bit.
All right. Well, much appreciated for you coming on. There's been a whole lot of excitement going on in Wisconsin, at least in the EV community news today. In Clean Technica, we had Jake Richardson drop an article concerning a station which you were attending the ribbon cutting for, the 060 GM Energy Partnership station. Is this NEVI funded?
It's NEVI funded. Yep. This is the ninth NEVI funded site that's open in Wisconsin.
See, now I thought NEVI funding was frozen and it was going to be a while before the iceberg melted and it was actually going to start spinning up stations. But this came pretty fast after the National Highway released their updated guidance. This was quick.
The I didn't ever see a stoppage in Wisconsin, and
Oh, okay.
they were part of the lawsuit
Hmm.
that kind of overturned the freeze. But Quick Charge opened a station in Mount Horeb in April or early May, which you'd think like, okay, how do they? Wasn't the money frozen then? And then it's really picked up since then. I think that was the fifth one, so now we've had like 5 open since May. Um, Brand new, mostly in spots where there's not a lot of other charging, especially in Rhinelander. There's a dealership 50 kilowatt fast charger from I think it's EV Connect, and it's probably from like 2018. And then 30 miles away or so, there is a Tesla supercharger, and that's about it. So definitely filling in the gaps. And that's what NEVI was supposed to do, right? Is to fill in gaps. I mean, there's still gaps in the state, but man, with 9 new stations open, it's really filled in a little bit.
And if I can also, you're on the ground in Wisconsin doing a great job doing coverage. Can you go over for the viewers some of the activity that's going on there? Because it's been my assessment that Wisconsin really seems to be outpacing neighbor states. Illinois seems to be a little bit lagging, and for sure Minnesota seems to be lagging, and Michigan over on on the other side of the Upper Peninsula across the Mackinac Bridge is definitely not moving any faster than glacial speed as far as my assessment goes. Indiana's doing a little bit better. They're probably kind of close to Wisconsin, but in that central Midwest, northern Midwest area, I'd have to say Wisconsin seems to be taking the lead as far as EV charging goes.
Yeah, I think Wisconsin, Minnesota, and Iowa were kind of in the same boat where, yeah, there were chargers, there were some Electrify America spots, maybe some EVgo along the highways, but not a lot to choose from. Um, Wisconsin opened their first NEVI site, I think it was December 12th of last year. And Quick Charge from Quick Trip, that's been the biggest driver. They've opened 5 stations. They've got 4 more that are under construction, and that various forms of construction. A couple have some dirt turned over. If if I'm not close to these places, I usually will watch PlugShare and hope that somebody updates some pictures. If I can't get around the state. I mean,
It's
it's,
a big
7
state.
hours. Yeah, it's 7 hours round
Mhm.
trip up to Rhinelander. We actually went up the night before because it was in the morning and I'm not really an early riser. So getting up at 4:30 to drive up to Rhinelander was not on my list of things I wanted to
Yeah, it
do.
was the same thing I did for my ribbon cutting. I left the night before and made sure I was there on time.
Yeah, and it just makes sense. I mean, I think we've kind of messaged before. Super Cruise is awesome. I put it on a Super Cruise and just it basically took me up there. So in that way, I've driven a lot more miles and a lot more easy miles. So that's good if I'm chasing around chargers. I went to 2 other spots that I had never been to on the way back from there. So it was, I usually try if I'm going to go out to different parts of the state to a charger that I haven't been to, I'll try to grab a bunch. I was trying to write down some notes of the ones that are NEVI and open. We've got Ashland, which I just had a video put out of that spot. That's right up at Lake Superior.
And that's
Men-
Quick Trip,
yep, quick charge. Yep.
Quick
Yep.
Charge.
Menominee, that's also quick charge. That's right on I-90. Lacrosse is on, or I'm sorry, Menominee is on I-94. Lacrosse is on I-90. Chippewa Falls is a little way off of I-94. Mount Horeb is on Highway 151 down in the south. And then there's 3 Francis Energy ones that are open in Sheboygan, Ladysmith, and Wasaki, and then Rhinelander. So those are all your NEVI sites, and they're all over the map. There's only one, Mount Horeb, which is about 20 miles outside of Madison in the southwest, kind of heading towards Iowa. Everything else is Sheboygan and north. So Sheboygan is an hour north of Milwaukee, right on the lake. Um, So everything up is like filling up. If people like to say like Wisconsin, Sheboygan's like here, and then everything is in the northern part of the state. So um, it's been great. There's now many NEVI stations in the Milwaukee area and south that are under construction. Um, but yeah, it's busy, and that's great for people that want to drive around the state like me.
And there's also non-Nebi going in around there, like Tesla, and
Yeah.
there's a pretty prominent Iona one I know going in, which really looks to be a crowd pleaser.
I think 16 ports on that one from Iona. There were,
Ooh.
when I was there on Sunday, Janesville is like 45 minutes from Madison. So I've been down there a few times, just kind of seeing construction. But they had a crew working on Sunday installing the pieces of the canopy. The transformer, all the gear looks like it's in. They were just kind of waiting for the canopy to be finished. So I would expect that's, should open relatively soon. I know it'll be well used.
Mhm.
Um, it's kind of at a good spot if you're driving up from Chicago going north or whatever. So it's in a pretty good spot. And I think with the amenities around it, it's going to grab people. It's 90 seconds if you have to sit at the light away from getting off the interstate. So
That's so convenient. I love that.
yeah. Yep.
All right, so let's go back to the station in question that was getting all the publicity that you were at the ribbon cutting for. And we were talking just prior to pressing the record button, and I didn't realize how much of a charging desert this area is. But apparently, the locals are able to use it as a daily grind charge, and also people passing through or using it as is Rhinelander a destination also, like a vacation destination area?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of the lake country. I mean, they call that the North Woods. So people go up there to hunt. They go up there to vacation. Snowmobiling is huge. So lots of people will tow boats up there, or tow their snowmobiles in the winter. I think that the Rhinelander station. I'm not sure if they planned for it, but the setup is good for a pull through experience. So um, the like I said, I'm not sure. I asked them about it, and I think they maybe thought about it afterwards, like, oh hey, this actually will work as a pull through.
Yeah, I noticed
um
it on the backside. If you pull into the backside or something, you can get
yep.
a pull-through experience going on there. But you were there, as you mentioned, for the actual ribbon cutting. So was it 060 who was hosting the ribbon cutting ceremony?
060 was these are guys from FTI, and FTI founded 060 charging. And so they have the partnerships with GM Energy, and other partners, including Culver's. I know they've got they talked about a station in California at an In-N-Out burger that they were excited about. They didn't want to talk about In-N-Out when we were at Culver's, but now that I'm not at Culver's, I'll talk about it. But that's one of their work trucks that they were charging there. So, I mean, they drive Silverado EVs around to service these locations. Most of the people that pulled in there were driving EVs and showed off some of the charging. They were able to bring in some of the other the GM dealer in town has actually a pretty good selection for being as far out as they are. They have a pretty good selection of EVs. I stopped there in August when I was up in that area just for vacation, and then I kind of went around. I had shot a bunch of videos, and I'm just kind of now getting to release them because of the once my football season starts, I get a lot more busy in my pay the bills job and can't have as much fun. But yeah, so that station in Rhinelander will be well used. Travelers from Illinois. I was able to actually drive up there on one charge from home, so it's 200 miles or so. My Equinox made it pretty easy. I think I had like 22% when I got there from 100. So, I mean, it's within range, and that was great because I could charge then and get about my day. Excuse me.
And please tell me you also had a butter burger and some custard for dessert, because you don't know how fortunate you are to have Culvers near you. They don't have those. We do have one in North Carolina, actually a couple in North Carolina, but they are such sight for sore eyes. Nice places to eat.
One of the guys from FTI they have the flavor of the day, if you're familiar with Culver's, which they have vanilla, chocolate, custard, and then they have a special flavor each day. So it was like pumpkin something, and he was pretty excited when he was near the bottom of his cup eating. So he found out what Culver's was all about in that one scoop of custard.
Yeah, really delicious. But let's talk about the actual event, the ribbon cutting that you went up for. Was it just tell us the vibe, and was well attended, and I mean, obviously if the people who are running 060 were able to bring the station through NEVI funding, I mean, just think of the red tape they had to go through to get this station in line and spun up. They themselves had to be ecstatic just to light the candle and actually get it behind them and move on to the next project. This had to really have been a ball of wax to get through.
Yep, and that's Wade Leopold, who's their executive vice president. That when I was interviewing him about the opening, and they're from Wisconsin. FTI is based in Menasha, I believe, which is outside of Green Bay. So it was like 2.5 hours, and you had a picture up before, I think, with the Culver's mascot Scoopy, and this one. So all of those guys are different people that work on their project team. And since this was like a home field for them being in Wisconsin, so they brought everybody up and had some selected guests. They had people from ChargePoint, somebody from GM Energy. 06 Energy is, I believe, the actual owner of the site. They're kind of one of their partners that I'm not 100% sure what the relationship is, but it's 06 and 060. Anyway, I didn't get the whole scenario there, but so yeah, all those people have worked on their different projects, whether it was out in New York or out in California. They've got one in Colorado that's open. So they now have, I think this was their 11th site. 11 or 12. I think at one point they said 12 here on the day, but when I was counting up, unless I missed one, I only found 11, but coast to coast. And I think the first time that I had ever heard of 060 was actually on one of your videos when you kind of did the GM Energy breakdown.
I just kind of stumbled on it. Yeah.
Yeah. So they're, I think they'd love to be bigger, but they do everything FTI does. They do the engineering, they do the installs, they do kind of whatever needs to be the design. So whatever needs to happen, and then they partner with ChargePoint for the equipment.
And how many stalls was the station again? I didn't quite catch it.
4. So there's 4 posts or 4 plugs, 2 machines, but they're the Express Plus, and each of the cables has its own power block along the back. So I think they go in 40 kilowatt blocks.
Mm-hmm.
So each of those power blocks in the back has 4 40 kilowatts. So each independent cable can pull 160 kilowatts. So, and it's, they're all separate. They're not connected. There's no balance or whatever. It's all on the individual cables.
And I understand there's a introductory pricing that was released. Does that sound right?
Yep. So they, introductory to me says like, oh, a couple weeks or, this weekend or whatever, but actually the deal goes until January. So if, I've tried to push it on my channel.
A long time. Yeah. It's all the way through the holiday.
Yeah. So, and it's for 41 cents, and how they put it was, this is Culver's 41st year. So it's kind of like a birthday celebration discount. Their normal regular rate, I guess, is going to be 52 cents, which in that area isn't terrible.
If there's select charging that not much around there, 52 cents is a reasonable rate.
Yeah, I think it's pretty comparable to the supercharger, which is like 30 miles away in Minocqua. where, unless you're driving a Tesla or pay for their membership, but they're, the regular rate I think is high 40s or low 50s.
Well, much exciting times that we are living in. Not only is Wisconsin blowing up with EV charging stations, now we have a new CPO that looks to be going national, hailing out of Wisconsin as well, opening up we could probably call this their flagship station, being in their home turf and everything, funded by Nevi nonetheless. So, wow, what a feat to celebrate. And much appreciated for you sharing the experience with us here at Out of Spec Bits. And we'll be sure to tune in. Anyone who has not seen Jay's channel, please go over and check it out. He does terrific content. I really enjoy watching his content. It's kind of short and succinct and to the point. He has a really good method of going through and reviewing stations and really high quality content. Much appreciated, Jay, for coming on.
Thank you for having me, Walter. It's an honor to be on here with you.
It's great to see the YouTube community and EV enthusiasts able to participate in a new station opening. It's such an exciting time to be alive. So much change is occurring. As mentioned at the beginning, EVgo had a really good week. In addition to new stations opened, both natively and through their EVgo Extend program with Pilot Flying J, they also announced in social media NACS was retrofitted on many stations. Actually, it was 2 different cycles of posts that they put into social media. I'll get to that in just a second. I actually saw 2 rounds. So the post indicated that the NACS stalls will have a yellow placard, kind of like these placards up here on top of these, indicating stations that have NACS. So that way it's clearly indicated which are which, because I think there's going to be some confusion as we go through this transition between CCS to NACS. Likely we're going to be in here this dual standard, I'd say, for at least 5 years until things kind of pan out, and then all the CCS cars are going to have to use adapters, I think is what is going to happen. But these are different. EVgo used to have a way where they would retrofit a CHAdeMO handle with a NACS connector, and it wasn't called DACS back then, but it only outputted 50 kilowatts. These are different. These are full native NACS cables that are able to dispense the full nameplate amount of the given stations. So this is not the old school way that EVgo used to do it. This is full-fledged NACS stations on EVgo NACS stalls on EVgo stations. So let me just go over some of these locations that were announced to have NACS in EVgo. And again, there's 2 different posts. It is Milwaukee, Wisconsin, Rogers, Minnesota, Hillard, Ohio, Milford, Massachusetts, Greenbrush, New York, apparently on the Columbia Turnpike, eastbound, Shirley, New York, Jacksonville, Florida. I wonder if that's the one. No, I don't know. Brentwood, California, San Jose, California, Oceanside, California, Fairfield, California, and Albuquerque, New Mexico, all getting NACS with the yellowed placards that I mentioned. Additionally, this week, EVgo opened a large form factor 14 stall station on what looks to be property that they purchased. I mean, I don't know. I haven't seen any purchase agreements or anything, but it looks like they purchased the property because they're fully occupying it. It's a great location in San Francisco, just on the San Francisco side of the Oakland Bay Bridge. So really prime real estate, 14 stalls built from the ground up. There was a building on that property which they leveled, and they just turned it into a very large 14 stall charging station. So that's a bit out of character for EVgo, and very likely we're going to be seeing more of that from them, considering all the funding they have and the mission that they're on in order to install as many chargers as they're advertising they're going to. I mentioned last week about a Petro-Canada adding a lot of stations to ChargePoint in the Alternative Fuels Data Center database, but was unsure if the hardware was actually replaced or if it was just an OCPP change for the existing hardware. Well, ChargePoint posted into social media these pictures showing new hardware under the distinctive canopies that Canadian EV drivers have come to recognize. Now, they will be greeted with brand new CPE ChargePoint Express Plus chargers instead of the older ones. So, at least at these 2 stations, it's confirmed that the ChargePoint hardware is in place. I'm not sure if it's in all of them, but it looks like the replacement of the hardware is continuing. CPO Red E had back-to-back weeks where they opened 9 stations, which is well above the previous pace that they were on. They seem to be heavily on an uptick, and I'm really amazed at how they're able to accomplish this. But congratulations, because in order for Red E, in order to open a station, what they have to do is close a deal. Oftentimes they have to go through construction and commissioning. It's a long process, and we have back-to-back weeks where Red E has opened 9 stations in a week. This week, there are also seen opening several 8-stall stations. One is confirmed to be using South Korean hardware maker Vive EV, V-I-V-E-E-V. I've never heard of them before, but one of my viewers, Jedin, found that they have over 15,000 chargers installed and only recently set up in the United States, 15,000 around the world, probably mostly in South Korea, and only recently set up in the United States. The units kind of look like the Kempower satellite form factor and are said to be able to be 600 kilowatt capable. But these were being advertised as 300 kilowatt in the Red E app, according to another viewer, Grayson Tyler 6673. But this all seems to signal a very active time for this fastly growing CPO, as well as an expansion from Autel to additional hardware they offer their site host clients, including the new Vive EV units. So Red E is pivoting away from only offering a single hardware, and the Vive, it looks like they are able to build bigger stations with those since they're smaller form factor units, and so they are able to optimize the space a little bit better. Pilot Flying J opened 4 new stations, including a larger 6-stall station in Charleston, South Carolina, and the second Canopy station on Interstate 5 in California in Orland. It's about 100 miles north of the capital of Sacramento on Interstate 5. Additionally, a sleeper site in Tallapoosa, Georgia, on Interstate 20 opened, further building into the Deep South more stations, and the 4th is in Stanfield, Oregon, in the central portion of the Interstate 84 route in the north of the state. Love's Truck Stop was seen opening a new EV charging station in Buena Vista, Colorado, right in the middle of the state. The curious thing here was that the station was open not with ChargePoint hardware, as had been seen in the case with all their other stations to date. It was ChargePoint Express Plus with the OmniDock at all their other locations, but this time with Electric Era hardware. And also as Electric Era as the back-end payment processor. So this may signal a hardware pivot with future Love builds. One nice thing about Electric Era that I mentioned on the last episode was that they have that whole built-in BESS in order to accelerate deployment times. So Love's might have made a permanent pivot, or they might just be trying out in Buena Vista, Colorado. So that's yet to be seen. It sure is in a beautiful area, though. Some of the pictures that came out, they put a drone shot into social media, and it is a very pretty area of the country that I'd love to go visit someday. Really nice looking. About 300 miles due west of there, the Rivian Adventure Network opened a very large 16-stall station on Interstate 70, further opening up the Rocky Mountain region for EV drivers with adventurous spirits. The station sits at 4,100 feet of elevation near the river that gives the town its name, and I'm sure Rivian was looking at good reason to build a larger form factor station with 16 stalls for this location. And I'm sure it's going to become a fan favorite. Really nice area of the country as well. Electrify America opened 4 new stations, including a 10-stall in Lake Mary, Florida at a Target, an 8-stall in Palatine, Illinois, north of Chicago, and 2 6-stall stations at shopping centers in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, and Williamsburg, Virginia. Lastly, a very positive article came out of the New York Times concerning the progress that has been made taking road trips in an EV. A gift version was sent to me by my brother-in-law, It's behind a paywall, so I'm not going to show anything about it. But if you Google it, you'll be able to see an accompanying video on the New York Times website. You want to search for "See How EV Road Trips Went from Impossible to Easy." Sometimes it's nice to be able to celebrate the progress. Thanks for watching.